Welcome to another Pokemon Market update. Today we are going to start off by talking about the Bubble Mew. We got a wide variety. We're going to talk about a few bigger cards from the era. We're going to talk about some more illustration rares and some other stuff towards the back half of the video. But there's some interesting stuff happening with the Bubble Mew, mostly on the TCG player side. We haven't seen this really transfer over to eBay yet, but check out some of these high sales for near mint copies of the Bubble Mew. Last solds, they're as high as 475, 470, 425. Before that, 400, 390, 380s, 390s. And then you can see before that, it was pretty much all in the 350s. So another big jump for the Bubble Mew. If we go to lowest listed on TCG Player, we are seeing 425 as the lowest listed, and then it starts to go up. Honestly, crazily enough, after that, at 500, just on it, it's starting to get insane. Like, just that we just keep running and running and running on some of these cards. Yeah, the eBay side has been cheaper. I will acknowledge that. But I mean, look at this 1 year chart, 224% growth. And it did dip. Like, once it hit that $300 mark, look at it right here. It did cool off into the 260s for a while, but then it just said, screw it. Now we're blowing past it into the $400 range on TCG Player. So yeah, 29 copies available. Looks like this one might continue to run if this holds up. We'll see. I'll keep you guys updated. PSA 10 pricing, looking a little bit more normal, kind of like 1,000, 1,100, 11, 1,000, 970. I wanted to point out this sale. I thought that was interesting in here. This was 2 days ago. 1,575 for a PSA 10 Mew. Just thought that was interesting. It kind of stood out in the sea of about $1,000 sales. Now, something else I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about some of the other chase cards of the era. Starting off with the Pikachu. And just something that I've really noticed, and we're going to talk about the Greninja. You can see, obviously, after its spike, it went to 580 after release. It came back down to 420 and like just kind of like, and I do acknowledge that it's like in a bit of a channel, but like look at this kind of consistency, especially after this 480 right here. It came down to 460, 470, 460, 450, back up to 480. Like, very consistently traded in the $400 mark. A lot of people were saying, oh, the Pikachu's going to crash, the Pikachu's going to crash. Obviously, the bull market being extremely helpful to the card, but I just wanted to talk about the consistency of the Pikachu for a second. Give it some credit. The Chikachu. 62 copies available. And you can see lowest listed is at 460 from a starred seller. You can see the Japanese copy lowest listed right here at 295. So 460 lowest listed, which would be below current market price. But that would pair with the most recent sale of 460. And before that, it was creeping up on 500. We saw a few 495 and a 525 sale. But before that, so it kind of bounces around in this $400 channel. Like, mid to high 400s-ish, depending. So I just wanted to talk about the consistency of that. Now, if we zoom out a little bit more, you can see what it looks like. 305, we were right on the cusp of it right here, essentially. You kind of can see it. Pre-release prices at 300. So yeah. And you can see the most sales at 423 on the way up. So if you're one of the people who bought right here, you're still potentially up a little bit, or at least flat, depending on where you were in this range. On the Pikachu. Now, the Greninja, kind of similar as well, right? Not as expensive of a card, but this is one of those ones where we zoom out. This one has been climbing, actually, overall. You can see, it came down off of pre-release, down to 118, shot up, hit 230, came back down to 219, up to 300. Then it's had a slow little cool off to 270, back up to 300, and it's since after October, once we hit middle of October, 300, it just has been in that $300 range, kind of slowly trading in that area. Just another consistent card. It's something to keep an eye on, like, more long term, but I do find it interesting that, these prices are holding, like, consistently. You think maybe a little bit more fluctuation, but the Greninja is holding. Last solds 330, 330, 320. There's a 298, which would be the low, it looks like, on here. And before that, pretty consistent 320s and 330s all down here. Lowest listed from a starred seller is $328, which pretty much reflects market price there. So the Greninja showing a lot of strength from Twilight Masquerade. We're going to talk a little bit more about Surging and Twilight as sets towards the end of the video. I also wanted to touch on, we talked about illustration rares in yesterday's video. I wanted to talk about the Squirtle and the Bulbasaur from Stellar Crown. They're seeing another shoot up in price. You can see recently, not that long ago, January 22nd, we were at $58. 3 months ago, we were at $42. Obviously seeing a huge shoot up into the $80 range. This card is about to overtake the Terapagos as the most expensive card from the set. And it's not super hard to see why. It's a nice card. He's spraying the Pidgey here. I love this. Pidgey's like pissed. So it's just a fun card. But illustration rares continuing to dominate the space. You can see lowest listed is around 80, which would reflect the market price currently, with last solds being, you got a few above, right? You got an 84, a 94, a 93, 94 down here, and before that, pretty much 80s and 70s with a low of 61 in the last solds. So that one would be the low. 64 copies available. You can see if we zoom out right here, pre-release pricing was at $48. Came down to, looks like the lowest you could have picked this card up for was in the 30s before slowly starting to climb, getting us to where we are at now. Similar tale for the Bulbasaur. Now the Bulbasaur is not quite as expensive, but it's close. The Bulbasaur is up to $72 market, 90% growth in the past 3 months, $37 back here, up to that $70 mark. Similar quantity available, 69 copies. You can see last solds. This almost $100 sale on the Bulbasaur really does seem like the anomaly here. Before that, pretty consistent 70s, and then this newest sale being 60 kind of seems like the outlier as well. There's also a $50 sale in here, so a little bit inconsistent on the Bulbasaur. Lowest listed though from a starred seller is 72, 73 with shipping, which would be pretty much right there on market price for the Bulbasaur. Now, once again, this is probably the weaker of the three if you include the Charmander, just because, I mean, I do like it a lot. He's just chilling, sleeping, doing his thing. The Pidgey's about to pounce on him. I feel like it's kind of one of those dog or cat videos where they're just like sleeping and something falls on them and they get scared. I feel like that's what's about to happen here. But super adorable, chilling in the sunlight. If we zoom out a little, pre-release price was 50, came down into the 30s, and then a much more steady climb off of 30. Just until recently. Now, this is the card that's about to get dethroned. The Terapagos is recovering a little bit. It was in a kind of a free fall mode, heavily featured in the anime, one of the first with rainbow borders. But the market has kind of said, Terapagos ain't nothing. This turtle doesn't mean anything. If you watch the anime, it does make sense. But, why this card would be more valuable. But, not everyone's watching the anime. It's okay. 15% up in the past month, so it has rebounded from 73 up into the 80s. We're seeing $85 right here, market price. If we zoom out, you can see the free fall, and this is traditionally what we see on a card upon release. Usually, this is one that is acting like an old card, and you don't buy singles upon release for collecting unless you're playing the TCG. You just let them fall. So it went from 150 slowly down, with the low being 73. So we're just finally seeing a little bit of a bounce on the Terapagos. A lot of copies available. Last solds 80, 85, pretty consistent 80s here. Mid to upper 80s, which does reflect market price. 134 copies available. Lowest listed being a little bit higher from a starred seller at $87 on the Terapagos. So when you look at Stellar Crown, you have Squirtle and Bulbasaur potentially passing the Terapagos, and the Terapagos at number 3. That's kind of when the set kind of starts to fall off, right? There's not a ton after that for the set. I mean, I do think that there are some good cards, but value-wise right now, those are like the top 3, and then that's kind of it for the set. We are seeing the Pokemon Center ETBs start to increase. We saw it back here. Obviously, you can see a lot of sales in late November. It was in the 70s, and then it has shot up. It's continued to climb even after in December. The end of December, it was 105. We're seeing it up into 116. 33 copies available. Lowest listed would be 117 with shipping, which would be just barely above market right now, or about at market. This is one of those PC ETBs that I still feel like does have some room, with the Noctowl promo being a nice card. Gen 2 Pokemon, right? Not the most popular, but give this one some more time. That should do well. You can zoom out right here and see a little bit better picture. Pre-release prices were at 150, and then obviously, yeah, we're literally bouncing off of that $77 low mark. The booster boxes are moving. They have come down a little. You can see off of this high right here. Not too much. And on the last solds, we're actually seeing 160 was the most recent last sold. We'll see if that holds. That would bump this up above this previous high of January 11th through 13th. But it is up 42% in the past 3 months, so you really can't complain, going from 105 into the 150s. 127 available. Lowest listed 155, which would be a little bit above current market price currently. So yeah, nothing too crazy. You'll see the growth on here. Great growth overall, but all of that growth coming recently into the bull market. So, Stellar Crown, it's a fine set. It's a fine set, especially with Squirtle and Bulba continuing to gain value. I think the set will be looked at a little bit more. But a lot of people liked it enough, I think. I like Stellar Crown. We are going to talk. We had a person in the comments. We talked about this in a live stream, but we had some people in the comments that wanted to talk about this card, the Umbreon Darkrai promo, tag team promo. Now, starting off just immediately, stunning card. Love the art style here of the two Pokemon. It's one of the darker looks, if you will. You got cool. I like it. We get a lot of cutesy stuff with Pokemon, and we get a lot of cool stuff. And this definitely leans into the cool atmosphere. You have the city in the background, the pose of the Umbreon. He's got kind of like crossed over, ready to he's ready to pivot and keep going. The Darkrai is looking kind of menacing. This is a great card. It is seeing massive growth right now, like a lot of the market. 98% growth in the past 3 months. So this is probably one of those undervalued cards. In the 40s. Back here, and it shot up obviously to $92. Not many copies available on TCG, so this is an interesting one to watch. 18 copies, and the lowest listed, if these start to sell, 130, and then it's going up into the 150s from starred sellers, and as high lowest listed as $200 for that. That doesn't really surprise me. This is a really nice promo. Last solds pretty consistent in the 90s, and as high as $100. If we zoom out, 229%. It was seeing very steady growth from 28 up into the 40s here, and obviously explosive growth in the market. A lot of sales back here at 36. That's actually the most. So that's really good for people who picked up the card there. After that, right before the run, we saw 28 copies sold at 48. So it's a nice promo. It's a really, really nice promo. Artwork-wise, Pokemon-wise, it's a great promo. So yeah, had to touch on that card. Also something I acknowledge is too early, but we have to just touch on some of these sales. So this is the Lily's Clefairy from Battle Partners. Battle Partners just released recently, and we're starting to see some of the first few sales on eBay, at least on the eBay side, right? And it's $500. This is where it varies. See, this is where sometimes it's really interesting. You got $500. You got $300, $525, $525, $570, $560, $520, $515, $600, $650, even $1,000 sale on the Lily's Clefairy, which is weird. I don't know why you would. Before that, 500, 500, 500, 650, 500. So kind of consistently in the 500s, the Lily's Clefairy. I will admit that this is a nice card. Not that I didn't like it before. I did say that this was a nice card. I did like it. I like the color contrast between you got the greens and then the pink. The card does pop. It'll be interesting to see in person. Obviously, I haven't seen it yet, but I just wanted to talk about that. Those prices being pretty high for the Japanese side. So, obviously a lot of attention being drawn to the set. They have announced on the Japanese side that they are going to be reprinting the set. They are going to be reprinting Triassol Festival. And we've got a similar announcement on the English side. So that'll be interesting to see kind of where that all ends up. Are they able to print enough to meet demand? In the past, they have, specifically on the Japanese side. The English side, I'm questioning whether they can actually meet demand. But let me know in the comments what you think about this Lily's Clefairy, because you know, Gen 1 Pokemon, I feel like on the US side, the English side, maybe we don't really care about Lily quite as much. I know there's some people who do. I don't know if maybe that's more of a Japanese thing. But anyways, it is a nice card. You cannot deny it's a nice card, but for me, not $500. Nice. We'd have to wait for that card to come down. Then we have the Groudon I wanted to touch on again real quickly. You know, we are seeing some sales cracking the $100 mark. I think this one's weird. I don't know what this weird anomaly is at 70. That does seem like the outlier, because before that 100, 102, 105, or even 118, 120 on the Groudon, 36 copies available, with the lowest listed being in the $100 mark. And it goes kind of quickly up to from 103 here with shipping to we're starting to see 125s on the Groudon. So that kind of seems like that might just be a matter of time on the Groudon. And, you know, it's a very stunning card from, I think, a good set. But I just wanted to touch on that, how it's continuing to run. If we zoom out right here, it's starting to look like, make the alt art boom run up look like just a blip on the radar at this point. It was a $20 card back here, believe it or not, a year ago, running up to 65, coming back down into the upper 40s, low 50s before a steady climb back up, surpassing this old high. And then, yeah, obviously the market pulling this card up into the $100 mark. Be interesting to see where this one settles as well. Jumping over back to Surging Sparks, I kind of wanted to touch on this with the Pikachu as well, just because it's shown some more consistency, is what you know, with Surging Sparks reprint being announced coming around the corner. We got the Latios and the Pikachu and the Greninja showing strength. Now this was an interesting card. If you remember, I think we can zoom out a little bit to get the full picture. You can see, yeah, can we, is that this? It's pretty much this. 213, dropped down to 180s, and then obviously shot up to 260, back to 230, and then after this mark, in early December, 230, it has gone as high as 250, and it's kind of same thing with the Pikachu. It's stabilized in a channel. So the Latias showing a lot of strength. 230, essentially 230 to 250, right? Most recent sales, there are some that have been higher, a $300 sale recently. But if you exclude that, pretty much lower to mid 200s, you know, as low as 220 right here, 228, up to 240, even a 248 sale, but very consistent on this. So that's kind of why I bring up, you know, the Surging Sparks. When you start to look at the Pikachu and the Latias holding so well at these prices, lowest listed on the English side would be 238, which would be below market currently. So once again, but within the channel in which it's traded at. So yeah, 238, and then back up into the 240s down here. So yeah, the Latias showing consistency, something that we talk about big moves a lot here, like stuff that's been shooting up. We don't always talk about stuff that's just consistent. So that shows a lot of strength in the card, right? Even if it's not making big moves up or big moves down, it's very consistent. Also, we're still on the cusp of that Eevee breaking $100. It wasn't really able to do it overall. You know, it ran up to the mid to upper 90s with last solds. Let me get this off so we can see these. You know, there is a $100 sale in here, 95, 89, 95, you know, pretty 98s as well. It's just having a hard time breaking through that $100 mark. Obviously, after seeing massive growth, 89% up from $50 up into the 90s. Lowest listed is going to be below market currently from a starred seller, 92. So it looks like it might be cooling off. We'll see just a little, or leveling off. You know, a lot of cards, they do have some big growth. They either retrace or retrace a little and level off for a while before they start to go on another run. There's a lot of copies of this available on TCG Player right now. So 101, right? And you can see, I mean, if we zoom out right here, you can see full picture right here. Pre-release pricing on this card actually being the lowest point, which you don't always often see. $25 up to 60 and back down. So yeah, it's on a good run though. Twilight Masquerade booster boxes as well. Just talking about this set, going from the Greninja, you kind of go, this is one of those ones too where, like, when you talk about Stellar Crown, you kind of have the Terapagos, the Bulba, the Squirtle, and then it kind of falls off, right? You have the Hydrapple and a few like actually nice art-wise SIRs, but there's just really not much value. You kind of see that with Twilight Masquerade to a certain extent. You have the Greninja, obviously, with massive value. You have the Eevee with good value. And then, it kind of falls off a little bit after that. You have the Blood Moon Ursaluna, and there's some other cards in there, but not a ton of depth to the set right now, value-wise. So, but the booster box here, it did shoot up to, it sold out on the Pokemon Center. We talked about that in a video. It did shoot up to the 190s. And then the market was saying, no, that's too much. Came back down to 170, and now we're seeing it bounce back up a little bit. Down here, 170 back up into the 180s. Oops. We want to turn this off so we can see the sales here. Last sold's upper 80s, so creeping back up to 190, 189, 188s, right? A few mid 80s, 180s down here. So it looks like it might be on the way up. 133 boxes available. Lowest listed does reflect that, and these are all starred sellers right here. Upper 180s. So cooled off a little bit. Probably going to continue to go on a run, especially with that Greninja showing that much consistency. So yeah, that's just something to keep an eye on. That this might have been the little bottom before another run. On Twilight, it'll be interesting, and another psychological point of when this cracks $200, what's going to happen. So something to keep an eye on there. But still, really good gains, obviously. If you zoom out back here, this was an expensive booster box, for a while. It was, even back here, before we had some of this craziness, it was one of the more expensive ones. So for a while. Even back here, you can see, too, that I do think that this is interesting. You can see it on the 6-month as well. It was in the 160s, and then it came back down into the 150s before going on a run. So you kind of see it cool off and then go on a run. So potentially look for Twilight to continue to move. I also wanted to touch on the PC ETBs. Not the strongest promo from this set, but if the booster box continues to run and the Greninja holds strong, this box is under 100. Once again, not the best PC ETB, I get it, but it's a good set. It's a good strong set, so we could see these crack 100 and continue to move. It is up 24%, but you can see the swing, right? From 70 up to 80, back down to 70, up to 90. So just something to keep on your radar, the PC ETBs from Twilight. Once again, I'm not really a fan of the teal mask here, but it is what it is. It's a PC ETB. It should do decent long term. Everyone loves those stamped promos, so we'll see where it ends up. But that's gonna do it for this one, guys. We just talked about that Bubble Mew. Let me know your thoughts on the Bubble Mew. I feel like the Bubble Mew is an interesting card. It's not super on my radar as a collector, but I do understand the desire towards it. I do feel like it is frenzied and intensified because of the price value attached to it right now. Also, let me know what you guys think of the Pikachu and the Greninja consistency. I think that says a lot. Maybe that's not talked about enough right now. And guilty because I'm talking about this stuff's going up, not hey, look what's showing strength. So just a different little topic. And also, we talked about a lot of Stellar Crown stuff, and then we had that really nice Umbreon Darkrai promo, so I thought that was fun to talk about. But that's going to do it for this one. I'll catch you guys in the next one. And remember, I'm supposed to do a funny thing. I told myself I was going to do a funny thing. I got nothing for you guys. Wait.
And remember, it was never a phase.